Couples therapists, without breaking confidentiality, what are some relationships that instantly set off red flags, and do you try and get them to work out? Boundary violations. Testing boundaries a little bit is okay, but repeatedly violating boundaries is a big red flag. I work a lot with people who have left abusive relationships and often they doubt they ever will date again and eventually want to. We work on their personal boundaries, but I also suggest some easy boundaries to have and how they can help. Boundary 1. Maintain your routine. If you go to bed at 9 PM and wake up to work out at 5 AM, maintain that. A decent person will respect that. A non-decent person will try to bulldoze through it. It might look like or stay up talking with me. I'm lonely. It's romantic to talk all night. If you aren't a teen, it isn't cute. It actually makes you too tired to be able to be present and critically reflective of the relationship. If they are teasing and making fun of your routine, you probably don't have the same values. It isn't about who is right or wrong. You probably aren't on the same page. Boundary 2. Cultural trend here is to move in together within a month, so might not apply elsewhere. So much for almost 6 months. Don't get together more than 3-4 times a week. This boundary helps you to preserve your you-ness. It gives you time for your interests and friends. It very quickly flushes out insecurities or controlling behavior in a potential partner. Other good ones to pay attention to are kids things that violate a boundary. Hey, I have my kids this weekend, so no in-person time and I will only spend time on my phone after the kids go to bed at 8. And guess what? The person cutely surprises you with a coffee. I'd give this one a one-time pass. Thanks for the coffee. Sorry I can't have you in. I'm not ready for you to meet the kids. etc. The person's response to being called out tells you so much. Folks, knowing your boundaries, knowing how to set them, and knowing how to maintain them are so very important to your own personal well-being. Also learn how to respect other people's boundaries. Boundaries don't have to be permanent. They can change, but they can change because someone has earned it or lost it. Contempt. When I experience true contempt from one in the relationship, I know it is usually over. Look towards a peaceful ending at that point if possible. That'll do it. In my last relationship, the guy's family had all been openly contemptuous toward me for the entire time I'd known him. I bailed once he started taking on the same attitude. People who approach therapy with the idea that they must convince the therapist that they're right and their partner is wrong. Almost like they're complaining to a parent or boss to have them sort out the problems. Yes, my patient wanted me to pick a side and complained about the partner every single time. When I pointed that out, that person just said, "You don't understand." I'm not a couples therapist, but I recommended a couples therapist to a coworker for some premarital counseling. My partner and I had really enjoyed our premarital sessions from this super nice therapist, and when a girl from my work got engaged, she asked for his number. The day after their first session, I got a call from the girl saying, "I can't believe you sent me to this horrible, invasive, rude counselor." I was in a panic. "Oh no, what happened?" She explained. We went in there and sat down, and the first thing he asked was, "So, why do you want to get married? How rude is that? How dare he?" That's when I realized that maybe their relationship wasn't going to pan out. They called off the wedding a few months later. Lol, I don't know about the guy's side, but I definitely know she's not mature enough for marriage yet. 1. Couples in it for tat arrangement. For example, I cheated so you can have one night to cheat with whomever, or I violated your trust and did drugs. You can go out and do whatever for one night. It erodes trust and compounds the hurt. 2. An affair that won't end. I've never seen a relationship bounce back where a partner is still in contact with their GF/BF. I don't mean an ex-GF/BF. I mean the person X is having the affair with, or is lying about it. 3. Control to an excessive amount. I most commonly see partners having to send pictures holding up a certain number of fingers, or proving that it's a live picture. This is abuse. 4. Overbearing parents and in-laws. I understand there's a ton of cultural nuance here, and I work with couples who have arranged marriages, as well as the South Asian community. However, when a spouse is more allied with their parents and calls them on speakerphone for fights, or often speaks ill of their partner to their parents, I usually see these couples stay very unhappily married for years. It's sad. If it's not abuse and a partner is willing to end an affair and genuinely work on it, I'll help support. I think couples therapy is sometimes helping couples have the courage to voice what they really want, and that may be separation. It's very easy to work out when one person knowingly prioritizes their own wants and needs over their partner's. Relationships like this are often doomed because the person simply doesn't care enough to make any meaningful change. This hits hard. I've been trying with my wife, but she's not interested. She asked to separate just before Christmas. Asked her to move out on my birthday earlier this week. It hurts to be in the same house with someone you love, but who isn't able to feel the same. But it also hurts to be apart from them. Edit. I'm amazed by how many people have gone through, or are going through the same thing. It's reassuring that I'm not alone. Thanks for your kind replies, and I hope you all find happiness. When I see a couple in which one or both of the members are seeking to change something fundamental about the other person, we process where the need for the change comes from, and the person with the issue evaluates whether it's a deal breaker for them or not. We work on acceptance and tolerance of others. I also recommend my couples are also in individual therapy on their own. I spent 5 years in a relationship like that. She had an image of a boyfriend in her head, and by Christ she was going to try smash me into that mold. Everything from the way I did the dishes to the way I cooked was criticized. Constant put downs about the way I dressed and shaved. Even my hobbies and friends weren't right. Her time investment in the relationship, narcissism, and stubbornness kept her there, and my depression, anxiety and complete lack of self-esteem kept me there. Looking back, it was a very bad relationship for me. As a clinical psychologist, I focused mainly on behavioral medicine and cognitive assessment, but did my fair share of marriage/couples work. Refusal or inability to compromise is a ginormous red flag, one that, I believe, is empirically validated. Compromise is a significant predictor of satisfaction in relationships, and it plays an important role in the long-term success of marriages and relationships in general. Relationship therapist here. One of the biggest red flags I see when working with a new couple is when they've totally forgotten the good. Part of relationship therapy is reconnecting a couple with what they like about each other, what initially attracted them to each other, and what the positives are between them. When people come in, and they've been so unhappy for so long, that they actually can't remember what it was like to be in love, or to even like each other, they're just about hopeless. You don't have to be happy for therapy to work, but if you can't even reminisce about the good times, then the good times are probably over. Whataboutism. Instead of taking ownership and responsibility for their contribution to the degradation of the relationship, one or both parties simply point out an example of the other exhibiting a similar behavior. It's a red flag, because it illustrates their lack of self-awareness and poor communication skills. Communication is key when trying to mend a tattered relationship, because without respectful communication the conflict recovery process can never begin. In the conflict recovery model, both parties agree to the terms under which they will communicate: no yelling, no interrupting, no I told you so's, etc. Each party gets a chance to share how the other's actions make them feel. Then they each propose their solutions and identify where they made assumptions or where they got triggered and why. Then they identify where they are willing to compromise. Next, we create an actionable plan with deadlines, and we monitor the progress to see if the proposed solutions were effective. Everything can go to shit, but once communication stagnates, you're in real trouble. So even if you're arguing, you're still doing okay. You just need to work on how you're communicating. This reminds me of Shaw's quote. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. My mom is a couples therapist, and she says there are some people that she has told you're not going to work out on the first couple sessions. Been there, harsh to hear, especially since we had kids together. But in the long run, counselor was right, and we are better friends and parents now not being together. I was just talking about this case today. Years ago when I was starting out, I had a female client come in and she reported anxiety, depression, etc. because her ex-husband was bothering her. I thought that was completely average and normal, so I asked her about it. She recounted many times that her and the ex clashed. I said, you don't have to interact with him, and maybe just distancing yourself is the way to go. Then she told me that they still lived together and had no plans of moving. The red flag, indicted I was dealing with two crazy people. My parents are this. Legally separated but live together. I'm the poster child for don't stay together for the kids. We are all adults now, but they still live together because separating assets is hard, and they are both so crazy no one else will keep them company. One partner says they are seeking your services to help them determine if they want to stay together. The other partner says they are seeking your services to make it so they stay together. Then it's about highlighting the points and allowing the person who is on the fence decide what they want, since the other person knows. Someone else's response made me think of this one. When a partner raises objection to meeting with me individually, during the first session I share that during assessment I like to meet with them both together and once each individually. Occasionally I'll have partners who suddenly become very critical or suspicious about this, asking why I'd do that, and is it ethical, and the classic I've never heard of a marriage counselor doing that before. It goes beyond curiosity or simply inquiring about practice. There is an incredulous and almost panicked tone to it. And sure enough, every single time, they turn out to be some variation of controlling, manipulative, abusive. Edit. Just to clarify, I'm not talking about doing concurrent, ongoing individual and couples sessions. This is just a one-off individual assessment session. My first 3 sessions are usually 1 couples session, 2 partner A individual, and 3 partner B individual. After that we are typically only as a couple, unless another one-off is needed for further assessment down the road. If needed, I refer out for ongoing concurrent individual or pause for more intensive individual. And thanks for the silver and awards. This makes a lot of sense. It's like they are scared of not being able to control their or someone else's image if they can't be in the room with them. That's exactly what it is. I can't be in there to interrupt or offer my more correct version of the story. Also, a victim is never going to admit the true depths of the abuse as long as the abuser is sitting next to them. Therapist. So you're considering ending the marriage? Wife. I'm sick of all the Star Wars puns. Husband. Divorce is strong with this one. Your wife says you never buy her flowers anymore. I didn't even realize she sold flowers. Child and family therapist here. Not exactly couples therapy, but there are key family dynamics that set off red flags for interpersonal relationships within a family, whether it is between parents and kids, or simply kids. The most important piece comes from invalidation. This comes in many forms, from gaslighting to just simple denial of another's opinion. Most of the time one or both parties are simply trying to be heard on an emotional level with an event or topic that was brought up, but the other party takes this as a personal attack on their ideals. We've all heard of or know people who will literally disagree with anything you say simply because you said it. That's the invalidation I'm referring to. Clutch moral of the story: attack the problem, not each other. People rarely have the exact same stance in a conflict, but usually in healthy relationships have very similar core values. While 2 parents may disagree on how to parent a child, authoritarian vs authoritative for example, the core value of caring about their children and wanting them to succeed is often the same. By determining they are within the same realm of issue, 2 parents with different ideals can see themselves as allies in a conflict rather than enemies. 2 things that people believe are red flags of poor relationships are the amount of conflicts the couple has and yelling. Neither is inherently a characteristic of good or bad relationships, but may be perceived as more common in bad relationships. The reality of this situation is that healthy relationships actually have a comparable amount of conflicts, but more intensely focus on addressing the core issue, rather than the beliefs and self-worth of the other. As for yelling, in this case it's an emotional response to not feeling heard. While not the best response to distress, it also isn't an indicator of poor communication skills. What is an indicator of poor communication is yelling over the other person in an attempt to invalidate their point. I'm not a therapist, but my therapist straight-faced told me that there are worse options than divorce. Got divorced and it was the best thing that happened to me. That's what my therapist said to me shortly after we got kicked out of couples counseling because my partner was so unmanageable. It genuinely was the best decision for me. My partner is still angry I left, but I've never felt better about myself. Cheers to you and your self-preservation. I'll just say that if you find yourself screaming I'm not ducking yelling at you, you might have a communication problem. Edit. I want to add a more thoughtful note, but I should also mention that I mainly work with individuals. Similar to what others have said, the reddest of flags for me is when clients try to get me to take sides. I can understand why people may do that every now and then during more difficult discussions, but if it happens consistently it's a huge problem. There are plenty of reasons that people may do this, but the reality is that therapy is meant to foster cooperation between partners. Feeling like you need the therapist on your side indicates you're approaching the relationship as a competition, not a cooperative interaction, and nothing good comes from that. Also, I once had a supervisor who did a great deal of couples work tell me that it has such a bad success rate because people rarely come before the relationship has crossed the point of no return. Unfortunately, that seems to be a very accurate description. My mom used to do that. She'd yell at us, and we'd say please stop yelling, and she'd respond with him not yelling. High conflict relationships. If frequent and bitter conflict began a few months or less after the relationship began and continued, relationship therapy is going to be a shit show, won't be helpful. Either the conflict will continue indefinitely or come to an end. Not just my opinion. The research supports this. I truly have no idea why people would stay in a relationship that's only a few months old where they are constantly fighting. It's not like you'll have a mortgage and kids together, I hope. Why sign up to spend all day every day being angry and or sad? I stayed in one a long time ago. Left, came back, married her, regretted it, of course. Big mistake. It wasn't just stupidity. Hope, love and passionate desire are such powerful feelings. And then there is the used car dilemma. You keep putting more and more money into a worn out, bad car, hoping it will start to work reliably. Then you've put so much money into it that you can't bear to walk away from it. Welp, they used meth together on a regular basis. They continued to cheat on one another, fighting in front of their kids, cheating in front of their kids, and oh wait, meth in front of their kids. When doing couples work, your client is the relationship itself, not person or B, so of course we try to work it out even knowing in our head there's no way in Ducksville will these toxic mfs ever work this out. And believe me, I tried. I tried so hard until this thing happened that I will never forget and tell my students about all the time. Person B was like, why don't you tell him me about you sleeping with your N-word BF? Quick note, I'm black and will type this word out to illustrate the hurt this word can cause. At that point I was just like, nah, duck this. My dissertation was finished. I had maybe a month left at this spot before leaving the state. I just told them that we're done today and advised them to seek another therapist at the front desk because I was no point longer able to accommodate them. Told the boss, and I was gutsy. Really, I just wanted to reach over and slap the absolute crap out that dude. Other instances where the typical one person wants to save a relationship while the other person is halfway out the door. It's really depressing actually, because you feel for that individual and they are trying, but that other person has other plans. Many of the times the other person was actively cheating and the spouse either knew or that person would tell me low-key after the session. I hated couples counseling. You never came to me as a first step, only a last resort. You never came to me as a first step. I took that away from my first round. Start counseling early in the relationship. If things are good, it won't hurt. What's a few hundred in insurance money? Depending on where you live and your current situation, I just want to point out. A few hundred could be a duckload, and they may not have any insurance that covers it. I was in couples therapy. At the end of the first session, the therapist asked us to say one nice thing about each other. I went first, said something nice about him. Therapist asked him to say something, and he replied, "My mother always told me, if you can't say something nice, say nothing. So I'll say nothing." Felt so sorry for the therapist. And yes, that's when I started planning my exit. I'm now very happy in a new relationship and my revenge is to be living my beat life. Very happy now. All hail the beat life. I saw a couple that was doing retaliatory cheating and telling each other about it. When they got through their anger, they decided to call a truce and made peace. With their level of emotional maturity, I doubt it lasted. I don't know if I helped them or prolonged their suffering. It was their decision to come to counseling, so I think it was the help they wanted. Other clients realize what they really want is divorce counseling. What's the best way to behave civilly and minimize damage to the kids while we go our separate ways? I think it would be great if divorce counseling were normalized. Agreed. I had the same insight during my internship. I provided couples counseling to two girls who were platonic best friends. They simply couldn't handle the stresses of becoming roommates. They separated domestically to save their friendship. This was a gem of a happy ending. That's so cute that they went to family therapy together as friends. Good for them. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel for more curated daily Reddit stories.